This is the Sean Hannity Show podcast.
You know, when Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. And when you think about why, in the African-American community at least, there's a lot of pain around what happened here, I think it's important to recognize that the African-American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history that doesn't go away. You know, there are very few African-American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me. There are very, very few African-American men who haven't had the experience of walking across the street and hearing the locks click on the doors of cars. That happens to me, at least before I was a senator. There are very few African-Americans who haven't had the experience of getting on an elevator and a woman clutching her purse nervously and holding her breath until she had a chance to get off. That happens often. And I don't want to exaggerate this, but those sets of experiences inform how the African-American community interprets what happened one night in Florida.
All right, there it is as the comments from the president earlier today. Joining us now is Daryl Parks. He is the attorney for the Trayvon Martin family. And also with us, Dr. Alveda King is back, the niece of Martin Luther King Jr., and also on board is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson from the group Bond, Brotherhood Organization for a New Destiny. Welcome, all of you.
Thank you for having me.
What is your reaction, Daryl, to the president's comments?
You know, we're humbled by it, Sean, because the truth of the matter is that is an experience that most of us as African-American men and women have in America. Quite often it may be difficult for some people to identify that who may not be African-American, but that's the truth and the reality of the situation. That's the truth and reality of the situation that the president was talking about. And so that's the real issue here in this case. It's not just a verdict. It's far beyond a verdict. It is the experience of a people. And so that's why you see the outpour, because the people's experience can relate to what happened in this case of someone being suspicious of them. And so that's why you have this outpour. And that's why even the president,
but we have to be on the facts here. And it's very, very simple for me. I mean, the facts are that the crimes have been committed in the area. Okay, so it's a crime-ridden area. Most of them in this case, in this city, in Sanford, in this community, had been committed by black males. All right, so that's on the record. He's a community watch person because they want to stop some of the robberies going on. And so he sees somebody that he didn't know, he's unfamiliar with, who's probably trying, and I'm guessing here, trying to get out of the rain, Trayvon, and he's near a house. You don't think putting all of that together, doesn't that make sense?
No, but Sean, you're missing it. You are relating to this one little incident involving sons, George Zimmerman. This issue is bigger than George Zimmerman now. This is about the fact that African-American men just walking should not automatically be a suspect and be at the whim of any person who decides that they wanted to see what they're doing. So it's a bigger issue. It's not about just this case anymore.
All right, Dr. King, what do you think?
What people are really missing, one, we're one race, the human race. None of us should ever be racially profiled. Years ago, I was angry with white people when my uncle was shot. My dad said the devil did it because white people can be on our side just as well. But two men, one whose dreams are in a coffin, that's Trayvon. He was not a thug. He has wonderful parents. He was just a teenager. Zimmerman's life is turned upside down. His parents are getting death threats. So for us, my heart gets grieved when each side tries to prove why they're right. When two men's lives have been destroyed, a young man who's dead, that grieves my heart. And justice needs to, mercy overrides justice anyway. The Bible says that. For instance, I think they should throw out all the IRS laws and start again. So we need to start looking at our laws, see why our laws allowed Trayvon to be dead, and for Mr. Zimmerman's parents to be getting death threats. And racism is still alive in America. I'm an African-American woman, and I get profiled. I still do. So racist people will still do that no matter what color their skin is. But people who are not racist will, with good intentions, they won't understand.
But there's no evidence that Zimmerman was racist. We need to be clear here, and that he was acting in a reasonable way considering his position and considering what the neighborhood had been through, which is a lot of crime, right, Dr. King?
No, society still allows the racist attitude.
Well, wait a minute, but that's not this case, Alveda. Not this case, because, look, he used to mentor black children in his home, and then when the mentoring program ended, he still continued to mentor these kids on his own dime.
Well, it's bigger than that. It's bigger.
I know, but the problem is, if the crimes in this community were mostly being committed by black males, does Trayvon then become the victim of what is a larger, broader societal problem?
Trayvon's death is a tragedy.
I agree with you.
He should not be dead. It's wrong for him to be dead. And justice, mercy needs to override man's justice and make sure that those wonderful parents find some solace beyond a law that just says, okay, we're going to acquit him because the law says. He shouldn't be dead. He just should not be dead.
What do you think, Reverend Peterson?
You know, Sean, I feel sad about what Obama said today because he is the president. He is black. And his words are going to only incite more anger and racist attitudes from black people, not all blacks, of course, but from blacks toward white people. I, too, have been, I've seen white people hold their purses, white women hold their purses when I walk by sometimes. I was riding in my car recently, and I stopped at a light, and a white woman drove up beside me and just, going the same direction. She had her window down, listened to her music, and she looked over, saw me, and right away she let her window up. Because I have overcome my anger, I understand that, and I've been working with young black men for 23 years. Young black men, not all, but most, are very angry. And they are angry at their home situation first, but when they go out into the world, they are told that it's racism, that it's the white man. And so they take that anger on, and over the years, they have attacked white Americans. They robbed them. We now see these black mobs going into white businesses around the country. It's happening right here in Long Beach, California today. And they are robbing white Americans. What do you expect white people to do when you see this stuff going on year after year after year, and you don't see black Americans changing it or trying to do anything about it? And so I understand why they feel that way. I would feel that way, too. As a matter of fact, a whole lot of black people feel that way when they see a group of black young boys, especially.
Didn't Jesse Jackson say that some years ago?
He did. He said if you were walking down the street and he heard some young people behind him, he feel comfortable knowing that it's white folks instead of blacks.
See, and as far as Trayvon, there was no evidence that Zimmerman profiled Trayvon because of race.
Not at all, Sean. As a matter of fact, I'm paying attention to the trial. That did not come out at all. And I do want to say that, and I love Alveda, but I disagree with her. Trayvon was a thug. Before they took down his Facebook page, we saw that Trayvon was a thug. Why
do you say that?
Hey, sir,
he was a pot smoking. He was a pot smoking, tattooed, Let me just make the point, and I'll make it fast and give everybody a chance.
It's a dumb point, though. Go ahead.
He was a pot smoking, tattoo wearing. He was thrown out of school several times. He was caught with marijuana in his backpack and a pipe in his backpack. As a matter of fact, this woman, Rachel, said in a recent interview that she believed Trayvon threw the first punch toward George Zimmerman because she was on the phone at the time when it happened, and she understands Trayvon better than anyone else. And as far as his parents, I don't see anything wonderful about his parents. His parents were not married. Their father was on his way to getting married a third time. One of his wives said that she and the father raised Trayvon, that he was with them 80 to 95% of the time. The stepmother said that. And that Trayvon never mentioned his mother. And see, this is the problem, Sean, of raising children without two parents in the home. A single-parent household doesn't work for the most part. And these black boys and girls are growing up without two parents. and the world is not telling them how to deal with life in the proper way, it's going to only get worse before it gets better.
Get a reaction. Daryl Parks?
We need the redemption of Jesus Christ, because you could have, two of our presidents spoke for marijuana, and now they're presidents. We don't know if Trayvon had been allowed to live, we don't know what he would have become, and his dream is in the grave. But the same thing for the Zimmermans. Their family doesn't need to be getting death threats. There's something bigger than this conversation. That is the mercy of God. So if our children might be, you could call my son a thug. He's redeemed now, but for a minute at 17, it was touch and go, and it took a lot of prayer. So, we can't just thugs throw them away so they're dead. That's too bad, but they're dead. No, these are precious jewels, just like the babies in the womb. We can't keep throwing our kids away. We've got to do something.
Daryl?
Sean, if I may, Sean, I have to jump off the phone because we were in a meeting. But let me just say this, right? First of all, to the gentleman who knew Trayvon was a typical teenager. Yeah, he wasn't. Marijuana. But let me say this here, though. In this situation we find ourselves in, on the night in question, we know what he was doing. We know where he was going. For someone to try and come and try and portray whatever happened in his life before that day and some act of conformity on that night is wrong, right? And it's misleading. This family has dealt with the situation. It is a bad situation for both families, right? However, what Trayvon's death has done is make us reflect a little bit more on how we act toward one another. Part of the problem, though, is we don't know each other. We don't reach out to each other. Thus, when we describe someone as a suspect, it makes everyone a suspect, and that's just totally not the way to go. So maybe, if nothing else, the amount of awareness in the situation will be better. And that's all the president's statement really was, is making the country more aware of this unconscious conduct sometimes that we all are part of. And it goes both ways. I mean, we have whites and blacks both act in that same way. They see somebody and who don't. But should I have to jump off the phone here?
Where are you going? What do you mean you got to jump off the phone? Yeah, what do you mean you got to jump off the phone? By the way, I did get a chance to meet Daryl, and he and I had discussed. He's going to be on Hannity tonight at 9 on the Fox News Channel, and I really enjoyed the time that I met you, and I look forward to seeing you tonight. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right.
The one thing I want to say, Sean, is that a typical teenager...
hang on. Dr. King, what is it?
I have been divorced, and I have had abortions. Jesus redeemed me. And so I can relate to the plight of Trayvon's parents. So divorce is not an indictment. Having a step-parent is not an indictment. Like I say, I've even had abortions, and that's wrong. And I know it's wrong, and I repent it. So we can't look at the profiles. Everybody has sinned and fallen short. But our children are precious commodities. Sure. And I'm simply saying it's not okay that Trayvon is dead. Okay, he was acquitted. That's the law today. We need to look at all of our laws in America, not the ones we like.
My point is that had Trayvon been raised in the right manner with a father and a mother and taught the right way by example, he would be alive today because he would not have attacked George Zimmerman. And this is not typical teenage life. Typical teenagers don't wear tattoos, photos with guns in their hands, grilled teeth, Twitter account by the name of @NoLimit, the N-word. That's not a typical teenage. That's a teenager that has not been raised in the proper way. And the one thing that this case has brought out, and I've been saying for 23 years, warning America that most or many black Americans are racist, and it's hidden in their hearts, and they hate white people. This is coming to the forefront like nothing I've seen before. And because of what Obama said today, even what Obama said before, Sean, that if he had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin, he was sending out a message then. Imagine if George Bush had said that about George Zimmerman. If I had a son, he would look like George Zimmerman. It would be all hell to pay.
Well, can we have an objective
Obama is sending the wrong message.
All right, let's go to Dr. King. Go ahead.
Okay.
Can we have an objective conversation about race? I used to hate white people when my uncle was killed. My daddy told me to get the love of God in my heart because the devil killed my uncle, not white people, and all white people were not enemies because some of them were dying right in the same movement, marching with us.
Yeah.
So I had to be corrected. We need to have a balanced conversation. Racism is not dead. There are still races of every skin color. There is one human race. We got to learn to get together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish as fools. My uncle said
Alveda,
that. But you know what? They say the baby's in the womb. Here's the argument. Well, they're going to grow up to be thugs anyway, so you just need to abort them. So that's why maybe I'm so emotional. All children are precious in the sight of God, including Trayvon. Mr. Zimmerman is no longer a child,
what you're leaving out, what you may not realize is that we have had a discussion about white racism. We've been doing that for the last 50 years, and
But
most
we
white
haven't
people,
finished it.
most
We've
white
not
people
finished
have. Let me just finish. Most white people have examined themselves, and they admit it, and they let it go. We have not had an honest dialogue about black racism toward white folks. Black people have been told that they can't be a racist, and so they're not looking at themselves, and they don't realize that they are
We're
racist.
going to have to leave this here, though. I'm not trying to end the conversation early. Reverend Peterson, thanks so much for being with us. Dr. Alveda King, it's always a pleasure.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah, real quick.
Okay,
I want people to go to my website at bondinfo.org, bondinfo.org, and check out what we're doing to help young black men overcome anger.
All right, thank you all for being with us. Quick break. We'll come back. Wide open telephones the next, and much more straight ahead.